Hello, my name is Leah Heilpern, and today I'm joined with Eliot Charles Heilpern, the director and the co-founder of the payments business. Eliot has spent over 30 years working in international banking and global client relations. Eliot, great to have you today. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Delighted to be here.
Yeah, a lot to discuss, so I do want to jump straight in. So, Eliot, tell me, what are the main drivers in the next 3 years for payments?
Well, it's a very good question, and there's a lot to tell you about. I think initially we're going to see a tremendous further development, if you like, in the technical side. A lot of the retail banking, as well as the corporate banking, is now involves itself with high-tech applications for cross-border payments, domestic payments, and there's been a tremendous growth in that, and I think that's going to continue. Um, Another area I think is that the fintechs will continue to do what they're doing, and they're bringing in a lot of the technical innovation. But the banks, in order not to be disintermediated themselves, are also trying now to get into the mold of tech and innovation, and that's quite difficult for them because they haven't always had the resources or the people or the budget to do that. But they are certainly doing it now, and in some ways they're competing against the new fintechs. And I think you'll find that one of the developments there will be that a number of these fintechs will be bought by the banks in order for the banks to keep up in the industry and also progress themselves. I think we'll also see the much bigger entrants now coming into the market. Um, Companies that have never been really involved in payments or banking, but now have a large clientele, have a large client base, perhaps some of the major supermarkets, some of the utilities. These big organizations will come together and want to serve and cross fertilize their offerings in partnerships with one another in order to provide that new technology, new payments innovation to their customers. And that brings me on to another point, which is confidence. The customer's got to have confidence, and the industry will grow, and the technical capabilities of the industry will grow, but only if the development and growth and confidence is there with the consumer. And that's terribly important. The consumer, the end user, has got to feel confident with all these new offerings, with all this new technology. And finally, I would say, with all this new development, the technology, institutions, banks, corporates coming together with fintechs in the payment space, there's going to be more regulation. I think the regulatory and compliance and due diligence world will grow tremendously. And as the applications and software applications and payment applications become more sophisticated, so the regulatory element and the control and the overseeing of that will also become more arduous. So more regulation, more innovation, more products, more innovation, more regulations. So watch this space, because I think there's a tremendous amount yet still to happen.
So, with this technological innovation in mind, as you say, explain to us then why you actually decided to start the payments business.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Well, from my own personal experience, and also I think my colleagues with whom I'm working with, and they're all very knowledgeable, um, I'm, I mentioned about this new technology, new innovation, and then new regulatory compliance, if you like. That's great, but the industry, because of all these developments in its wider sense, if you like, the industry is still and continues to be quite fragmented. It's very difficult if there's a particular initiative that the regulator has brought to the fore to understand. Well, we understand the regulator wants us to do A, B, and C by, I don't know, July 2021, but what actually is involved? What do we as a participant, what do we as a supplier, what do we as a bank, a fintech who has to serve our customers, what is it we have to do? What is it we have to do from a compliance perspective? What is it we have to do from a regulatory perspective? And how do we develop the required applications to provide that front-end activity, adhere to the regulator, and ensure that our customers are happy and satisfied with what we're doing? So the industry is fragmented. So where do you go? You can go to the regulator, you can go to the banks, you can go to the fintechs and suppliers, but it's difficult. And some of these participants who are very good at what they do within their own space don't have the answers. They have some of the answers, but they don't have all the answers. So we have come together to provide a sort of cradle to grave activity, both in the retail payment space, the corporate international payments and cash management space, and actually also in the corporate space for those corporates who are involved in both corporate and treasury type payments, and those, as I said earlier, who are making gains in the domestic payment space. So we will be a core disseminator, we hope, of information to the industry. It's a big task we've set ourselves.
Yeah, sure.
We readily admit that, but it's something that we think the industry needs. And the industry, with all the good payment bodies and institutions, regulators and associations, they're all very good, and we want to work with them. We're not going to disintermediate anyone, but they tend to be siloed. By that I mean one institution or one payment association may be dealing with just cards, the card payment industry. Another may be just dealing with liquidity. Another one may just be dealing with software or just regulatory. We intend to, and we are currently now covering all these key areas that impinge directly upon the payments industry. And I don't know that there is anyone who has taken on that challenge. And believe me, it's a challenge, but it's an enjoyable challenge. And my colleagues and I and our membership now that's growing will certainly rise to the occasion and provide the value which I think the industry needs and which I believe the payments business is now and will continue to provide.
You talk a lot about challenges, and you've mentioned that regulation and compliance. So take me through some of the biggest challenges that you faced as a business.
Well, us personally, yes, like any business, we are a startup. We talked about it last year, but we actually got moving and became incorporated in January. So there's lots of people out there, there's lots of individuals, as I've said, and associations and bodies doing what they're doing, all very good. But we are trying to provide this all-encompassing cradle-to-grave approach. So the biggest challenge for us, like any new business, in a very mature industry, which the payments and banking industry is to get that message out, to be definitively clear in what we do, to be absolutely 100% clear in the value that we are providing both our membership and the wider industry and all participants in that industry, and ultimately get the recipients of the message, both customers, our members, our partners, and, as I say, the wider participants in the industry, get them to understand the value that we are providing to them. Now, those three things, what we do, who we are, and providing value and getting that message understood, is a challenge in itself. And clearly, like any industry, any business, this current lockdown and what we're going through now doesn't help, but that will go, I'm sure, and we need to make sure that the message is out there, and the real challenge, make sure the message sticks and the recipient of that message will react in a positive way to what we are offering.
Right, so Eliot, tell me then, who are the key players in the payments business in the next few years, and just generally the payments space as a whole?
Well, obviously, as I said a little bit earlier to your previous question, the banks will continue.
Okay.
And if they don't want to lose out, then they need to ensure that they are there right at the top, either partnering with those fintechs who will continue or possibly merging and buying those institutions. I think we will see, as I mentioned, some of the bigger newer entrants. And these could be supermarkets. I mean, there is one particular supermarket, we all know it well. My family and I shop there. They're already in the banking world. They provide a credit card, they have their own club card. So it's all about data, and they know what their customers are shopping, they know what the food they buy, they provide holidays and insurance. So in a sense, some of these larger institutions that have a huge database in the retail environment will, I think, be coming together with other partners. I mentioned earlier, I see utility companies now, water companies who may be serving 20 to 30,000 households coming together with a supermarket that's already in the payment space, as I alluded to just now, and with a bank, one of the new challenger banks and one of the major clearing banks. So you have a utility, you would have a bank, and you would have a supermarket. If you put all that together, the actual cross-fertilization and cross-sell of products and services is fantastic. And I think you'll get to the point where the name or the terminology bank card will go, and the utility company, in this example, will just have a utility card. And the utility card, the water company card, will allow you to do all sorts of things, make payments, do your insurance, buy your food, order stuff from the pharmacy. It doesn't matter what. In other words, the payments industry and its developments and these new entrants will lead to a greater all-encompassing offering into other industries. So the payments industry itself, through this new technology, will now be, if you like, opening the gateway and doors to other corporations, to other industries. I mean, if you take a well-known supermarket, you can go into this well-known supermarket. I'm not here to advertise them, but just as an example, you can. There is a well-known high street chemist in this supermarket, and you can get your prescriptions and tablets and whatever you want there. Well, you know, some years ago, I think that was unheard of. And in the Netherlands, we now see something called smart cities. I was at a conference the other day when a particular representative of a platform, a technical platform, is now serving all the local retailers in the local city centre. That includes banks, it includes all manner of merchants in the high street, and obviously the consumer, you and I, and we have to buy products and we make payments. And so again, it's a morphing of both technology and different entities and different products all around the ability to make payments, irrespective of what the payment is for. So I see this as a key development over the next 3 to even 5 years, or possibly sooner. It's certainly going to be a very different world from what we have seen in the payments and wider commercial industries, if you like, from what we have seen up to now.
So it seems that the traditional world, traditional banks are just going to have to innovate, essentially, if they want to keep up. So is the payments ecosystem now in good hands, would you say?
Yes, I think it is in good hands. We have the regulators, the FCA, as part of the Bank of England, and the PRA and other regulatory bodies and payments bodies. Yes, I think it is. And as long as these regulatory bodies do provide the information required in a clear, definitive format to all participants in the industry, be it banks, fintechs, independents, whomsoever. It's in good hands. It's in very good hands. But what I would ask is, please provide all the participants and all those who are supplying payments facilities to the end user to be clear and concise in what they do and what is being offered and what is required. And, you know, some of the regulatory activity is quite complicated. I understand that, but let's try to keep it clear and simple and cohesive and transparent, but certainly in good hands, yes.
So just finally then, Eliot, tell me, what is the future for the payments business? What does it hold?
Well, as I mentioned in the previous but one question, I think we're certainly going to see all these developments. But to be succinct about it, I think we'll probably see quite a number of fintechs being bought by the banks. I think we will see these banks now, the larger clearing banks, coming together with partners in other fintechs that they don't buy. The technology is going to lead the way. And what we want is, again, technology that is clear, and the interoperability which is needed to provide this front end, these front end services has to be, again, has to be put together in a way that is not complicated. There will be legal requirements, but it's a challenge. We'll certainly see more of that from a back office perspective, and that again will provide richness to the front office products being offered to you and I as retail users, and also in the corporate space. And I come back to my other point about entities coming together. I gave the example earlier, didn't I, of utilities and banks and supermarkets. Smart cities, that is the term that was used when I heard this. Cities and towns and communities that have the ability to use this technology for payments, and payments supporting both an individual's financial requirements, and also the ability to make payments for the purchase of other services from a whole raft of other industries, which before weren't really involved in the technical interoperability of each of those industries. So again, a very exciting time, and a very exciting time for the payments business, because we will be involved in all of this. So looking forward to it, and I know my colleagues are.
Yeah, you mentioned smart cities there. Absolutely, so much innovation coming. A very exciting time for the payments business. Eliot, thank you so much. A pleasure having you on today.
Well, thank you very much. Very kind of you. And I look forward to taking our business and our industry further with all those out there. Thank you so much.